Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
And the truth that is rooted within me.
Good morning here on the Pacific Coast, and good afternoon in the middle and eastern United States, and wherever you are in the country. We welcome you to MindShifters Radio. The call-in number, if you have a question, is 646-200-4169. And the chat room's open and going, and Michael is actually with some friends touring through the Rise and Shine factory, and he's probably just lost track of time, so he's not on yet, but I'm sure he'll join us here very shortly. David, I see that you're already on the air.
I am, Jeannie. Good morning and good afternoon.
Well, the show's on. How are you doing, David?
I'm doing very well. Sitting here going over a few reports and taking a look at a few things. Did I just hear you say Michael is there?
He is not on yet. He's walking through the factory. We're here in Ashland, Oregon. Well, actually, we're in Medford right at the moment. And there's some friends of ours who owns a Rise and Shine company. It's an awesome cleanse, deep process cleanse for 28 days. And so they had invited us to come over and tour through the factory. And I'm just sitting here getting logged onto the computer, and he hasn't come back from his tour yet. So I'm sure he'll join us here very shortly.
Okay. And do we have Dr. Tim on today?
No, he's not. He's in the chat room, but he's not on the phone.
Oh, okay. Well, is there anything that we want to talk about today? Anything coming up for anyone? Anything left over from Friday? Seems like there was a
Michael just joined us here.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Michael.
How are you this morning,
How
sir?
was the tour?
Very good. Very interesting. We're at the factory of Rise and Shine in Medford, Oregon. Some friends of ours own this business, and so we're here meeting with them, and we were just talking about some of the things going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Is Dr. Tim with us this morning? Oh, okay.
He's in the chat room.
Go ahead.
Oh, cool. Go ahead, David.
Oh, I was just saying, I don't know if you plan to talk about the video that you recommended to me. I haven't watched that yet, but I certainly plan to do that. Is it something that you want to put out there for other folks to see if we can't
sure, actually,
make sure that it gets onto the Netflix?
Yeah. Until midnight tonight, there's a free video that you can watch, and the website is and I may not have the spelling correct, Burzynski, BRAZINSKI, I believe it is, .com. And it's a movie about a cancer specialist, MD, PhD, who has a cure for cancer that is totally non-toxic and is totally side effect free, with radically incurable cancers, especially brain tumors in children. On this program, within a month, children are cancer-free. And this movie gives the long, sordid history, extremely well documented, right down to congressional hearings and FDA documents, and just tells how they have tried to harass this man out of business, tried to put him in prison. In the case in which they tried to put him in prison, they had gone to his patients, taken his patients list under force of guns, and went to his patients in all over the country, paid somebody with your tax dollars to go try to harass people into complaining about him. And nobody would complain because they were all awesomely pleased with what had happened in their lives, especially with their children. And when they couldn't get anybody to do that, they then went in, though he had done everything totally and completely legally. They ended up charging him, and part of their charge specifically says, we're not going to raise the issue of whether this works or not. That's irrelevant. And he's curing thousands and thousands of people. It's a free view until midnight tonight at Burzynski.com. If I don't have the spelling correctly, I'm sure if you put in Google, an approximate spelling with movie and FDA, it'll come out. But the thing that they're requesting, because this is going to change the world, it is a bird's eye view on how and what it has to do with this work. Is it's a bird's eye view on how the non-being mind works and what kind of insanities it will do. And these insanities, when you watch this, you'll see the principles by which non-being works. You'll see how it works in business. You'll see how it works in banking. You'll see how it works in investing. You'll see precisely how it works in government and religion. On and on it goes. The whole thing is just laid out. And all you have to do is change the names and the details, and you can apply this set of principles of non-being. And truth is irrelevant. I think this is going to be bigger than tobacco in terms of when people wake up and start to actually pursue RICO statutes and all of that. It has cost hundreds and hundreds of lives just to harass this man out of business, totally legally, curing cancer. MD, PhD. It's an awesome
Michael?
video. So, yes, sir.
The correct spelling is BURZYNSKI movie.com.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, David. Spell it again if you would.
You're welcome. Pardon me?
Spell it again if you would, just so everybody gets it.
BURZYNSKI
So you can watch that film free until midnight tonight. You can also pay $2.99 to watch it on Amazon. You can order it on his site. You can order 20 copies of it for $99. And we invite everybody to watch it if it makes sense to you, if it is the demonstration that we have the tools for healing this insanity on our earth. And this is the mind that creates all of the suffering on the planet. And when we confront it with the active presence of love and the tools that we have, we can change this. And so we invite you to order 20 of those movies, give it out to your friends. Let's just scatter the whole planet with it. And also, if you would, one of the requests they make is to go on Netflix and put it in your queue. In Netflix, the name of the movie is Burzynski. Put it in your Netflix and ask Netflix to get it so that you'll get on Netflix, which will give it much, much more exposure. So it's an awesome piece of work on a precise demonstration of how the non-being mind works, which is, if you're not familiar with our work, we're working with the idea of the ancient Aramaic concept of forgiveness, which doesn't have to do with letting other people off the hook, but it's how we change the non-being states in ourselves. And the way we arrive at looking at that idea of non-being is we invite you to imagine going back to the time when you held a newborn child. And when you held that newborn child, you had a direct taste of the active presence of love, the direct taste of a human life. It's how we humans are designed to operate. But we come in, and the non-being world starts to put its thumbprints on us. Its hostilities, its fears, its rages, its griefs, its gossips, its slanders, its condemnation, and its fears. And when we get lost in that, we build a non-being identity. We build an identity that blocks human life out of our experience. Our work is about restoring human life. When you watch this movie, and again, it's free until midnight tonight, when you watch this movie, you'll see exactly how the whole process works. And I just hold the space in prayer for Burzynski and the producer of this movie, that they're safe, because they're coming against a huge monolith that has unlimited funds. And his courage, his stick-to-itness. Now, there are hundreds of healers who've been subjected to precisely the same treatment. Burzynski didn't fold. I just acknowledge this man's courage. He's gone forward. And, I mean, they created 4 different grand juries to try to indict him. They came in time after time and stole his computers, stole his patient records, went to his patients and tried to get them to inform on him and complain about him. And he just went through it all. They finally tried him, tried to put him in jail. I mean, it's so insane. And it's the relentless activity of the mind that is disconnected from its source. And we have the tools for healing that. So please tap into that movie. Once again, David, would you spell it out for us? I don't have it in front of me. www.bur. www.bur.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me do this. I went out of that for just a moment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, goodness.
I put it in the chat room, too, and it's www.burzynski.com. And then Lisa's also put out, there's a Vimeo, vimeo.com/24821365. I'm not sure how long the Vimeo one is, but if you go to burzynskimovie.com, that one is actually full movie.
Yeah, that is the Vimeo. That when you go to Burzynski.com, the freebie that you can watch is the Vimeo portion of it, and they're going to have it up until midnight tonight. So, but we need to support this man. We need to hold the space for this man. We need to hold the space for these producers, that they are safe and secure going through this, because they're coming against people who have no qualms whatsoever about anything that they do. And so we just hold the space, and for both sides of this whole game, those who are in such a disconnected state of pain that they would do such things as are done. It's heart-wrenching when you watch this movie, and please make sure you've got a stack of worksheets beside you, because it's going to bring up, if you have any outrage in you, it's going to bring up such outrage. And what we need to do in order to heal this on the planet, if I have outrage about an issue that's going on out there in the world, then I'm a contributor to that issue. I need to bring the active presence of love. I need to bring my human life, which is that newborn energy, to these circumstances in order to bring healing. And so we hold that space for you, Dr. Burzynski, and all the people that you're working with, and to your producer. And it's a man named Mercola, and I don't know if he's connected with Dr. Mercola. I suspect he might be. Maybe his son, Eric Mercola, is the producer and the writer of the film. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Mercola's website, www.mercola, mercola.com, it's one of the most awesome health sites on the internet. Dr. Mercola is another MD. I'm surprised they haven't touched him yet, but he is doing some awesome work. I don't agree with everything he has on his site, but he's doing some awesome work with actually supporting people in healing rather than pushing drugs down their throats. So it's pretty powerful. It's pretty amazing. So, and we hold the space for all of we who, in our moments when we're not functioning as non-humans, when we are functioning as non-humans, to get back to being, to get back to a human life, and to create a world where we all function out of a human life, all function out of love, instead of this poverty mindset that tends to pervade our culture. So, Jeannie, do we have any questions in the chat room or any callers online?
No, but Dr. Tim is on now.
Well, hey there, young man. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes, sir.
I'm doing quite well. I was a little bit late getting on the line today because I had to finish reviewing the audio from Sunday's Unity talk.
So is it up on your website?
Well, it isn't up there yet. It is up on the Unity website, so I can give you a link, but I wanted to make sure that it was up without distortions because the last time they missed a big chunk of the first part of it. But it's up. It's good.
Oh, cool. Well, wait, maybe you can just put that in the chat room, and it'll be there for anybody that wants to watch it. And what was your topic?
I did a talk on allowance, surrender, and humility. Just a little. Just a little. You
were just addressing small issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you care to share the gist of it with us?
Well, I used things from you and a story from Guy Finley and work from The Way of Mastery. The first book of Way of Mastery is The Way of the Heart, and Chapter 5 in that book talks about the 5 keys to the kingdom: desire, intention, allowance, surrender, and humility. And I've heard you talk several different times about we're always surrendering to something. We're either surrendering to our anger and fear and letting it drive our behavior, or we're surrendering to love and compassion and connectedness. So that was it. It's just a discussion of the essence of how we fight against and identify to try and hold on to certain things, and life has more in store for us than we could ever imagine. And if we can't move into allowance and surrender with humility as our foundation, then we can't let the plan of the universe and God's love unfold within us. We're always clinging to what little my logical mind can plan out for me. And,
right.
And then I have resistance to what the moment brings me, and I lose the lesson that the moment has for me. So that's the talk in a nutshell.
Sounds like you got it all in one nutshell.
There you go.
For those who may not have met Dr. Tim yet, Dr. Tim is a psychologist who has a support group up in Crystal Lake near Chicago, Illinois. He does a support group every Tuesday night. So anybody that's in the Chicago area, tomorrow night, support group meets. There's a link on our website for that. It's at the Unity Church, so they've probably got a link on it as well, or information about it. And I acknowledge you for the awesome work you're doing with people, the support that you're being to us and to the world. It's fabulous. And, you know, that word humility, because it's, generally speaking, so misunderstood in the ancient Aramaic, is our mental capacity. It's not about groveling in the earth like a worm, like the Greeks would tell us. It's the mental capacity to look for the highest and best and cooperate only with that in another and for yourself. And so as we choose to do that, an awesome principle that's there from the Course in Miracles, it says, what you look for, what you see in another, you reinforce both in them and in yourself. So as we look for that being, and it doesn't mean we can't hold people accountable if they're off base, but as we're holding them accountable, we're holding that space for something higher, for seeing, awakening, enlivening the being that is the truth about each and every one of us that the world would rather us not know about, interestingly enough. And why would anybody do that? Because they're out of touch with that truth about themselves, and we're here to support you restoring that. And if you have any questions or thoughts about our conversation, our phone number to call in is 646-200-4169. If you dial in and you have a question or you have a comment, we would invite you to simply push a 1 on the phone, and as you click on that 1, you'll be put in queue. Jeannie will introduce you and bring you onto the show. Jeannie, anything happening in the chat room? Okay. So what is the human life? And Are we willing to do what it takes to function out of it? That becomes the question. And as you recognize that your human life is about living as and in the active presence of love, you get to be part of creating a world where human life is allowed to show up, where human life is allowed to be experienced, where human life is allowed to be expressed. And to do that, all you have to do is forgive everything in yourself that is unlike a human life. What would that be? Well, we ask a question in our workshops. Jeannie asks when she introduces Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. She asks the question, how many have ever done something they regret? And always when that question is asked, the answer is some variation on the theme of hostility or fear. So when people are in regret, they're in rage and sadness and grief and pain and anger, and those are all non-human attributes. But they're the things that we've, in our culture of insanity, and I define insanity as living in a world without the active presence of love. That's a definition we've used for many years. There's actually a psychiatrist named Jerry Jampolsky who recently wrote that his definition of insanity was, and he said that if he were to totally, completely rewrite the diagnostic manual for psychiatrists, it would be one page. And it would be, and this may not be a precise quote, but it's pretty close. The definition of insanity would be when we don't know ourselves as love and share that love with others. Awesome definition. And we acknowledge you, Dr. Jampolsky, for all the work you've done as a psychiatrist and the healing that you've brought to so many people. You might want to look up his book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. And so here we are working with the tool of forgiveness, and forgiveness not being about, I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, but rather, I'm going to go inside of me and change the content of my mind until all that I have left in my experience is the active presence of love. And there is a specific technology that was taught in the ancient Aramaic language. It goes back 2,000 years ago, and there's a how-to, how to go inside of your mind and remove what never belonged there. We've been taught a backward idea. We've been taught forgiveness is about letting somebody else off the hook. I forgive them. I forgive myself. Nothing whatsoever to do with forgiveness. If you're not familiar with that technology, we invite you to go to our website. It's there free. You're welcome to download it, and the website is www.whyagain.com. www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. And if you go to the first link, you'll click on that one. You can freely download a total explanation of the forgiveness process from the Aramaic. That's a new chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? You can actually download the book free, too. And you can, the second link is the actual worksheet itself, which you can download. And in doing so, you'll have access to the ancient Aramaic technology of actual forgiveness. And we're here to support you in living in that, because that's what we humans are designed for. So we're delighted to be here to share these tools with you. And Jeannie, any questions, thoughts in the chat room?
No.
Or anybody on the phone?
Michael?
Nothing.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yes, we do have a hand up, but go ahead, Tim.
I was wondering if you ever heard of the book. It was, I believe, through a link on Pamela Gregory's forgiveness page on Facebook. The book was titled "Jesus Was Not a Christian."
I haven't read it. I'm not familiar with it, but I have heard her speak of it. Yes.
Well, I'm in the process of making my way through it. It's certainly not a great book. He's not a fabulous writer and author, but he's thoroughly researched the origins of Christianity and Catholicism, and it's a powerful look at how the male dominated the shadow side of the male psyche to exclude women, to move away from what Yeshua taught toward a way to create power and control and accumulate wealth. And the ideas about...
That's Burzynski's movie. That's what the non-being mind does. Same principle.
Well, the whole first 110 pages of this other book, which is as far as I've gotten so far, he keeps talking about the Aramaic Yeshua and what he was teaching as being so different from what everything in Christianity is, and how the only way they could justify all of the anger and hatred and killing and torture that they've done over the years is to move completely away from what Yeshua taught. So I'll let you know as I move further into the book, but if anybody's looking for ammunition for a way to see to the roots of their religion, to be able to give themselves a logical reason for moving away from it before they move into the heart-centered work of Yeshua, this is a good compilation of information about how it all took place.
I'll have to get a copy of it, and I would actually be inclined to have a different title if I were going to write about that topic, and it was probably only one Christian, because anybody that isn't following the teachings of Yeshua isn't Christian. And the opening of my new book, The End of Suffering, Resurrecting the Original Aramaic Yeshua to Christ, it starts out with Yeshua saying to a character that he's talking to, you realize they killed me twice. First they killed my body, then they killed my teaching. I said, love those who hate you, do good to those who despitefully use you. That wrapped as they were in the commandments of men, they could not hear my words. It's time for my words to be heeded. That's the whole, the sum and substance is right there of the whole of an actual Christian perspective. And then what Yeshua did is he gave an interesting protocol for how to start to live out of that. And he said there's something that has to come first in doing the work that he suggested and or reading the scriptures properly. And what has to come first is that you have to have in your mind the active presence of love, and we could turn it into in the language we're speaking about right now. You have to maintain a human life when you think of the Creator, when you think of neighbor, when you think of self. You have to be able to hold that space of a human being life in your mind. Elsewise, everything you have in your mind will be projected into those scriptures. So we hear Yeshua saying, you must have love for God, for neighbor, for self. This is the first law. And then he says, upon this law hangs the law and all its prophets. Now, if you look historically, that's called a protocol. If you've got let's say Dr. Burzynski, if somebody had cancer, canceled their thought, went to see Dr. Burzynski would say, here's the protocol. Here's what you do first. Here's what you do second. Here's what you do third. Here's what you do fourth. Here's what you do fifth. And if you follow that protocol, you're pretty much assured your cancer is going to heal, or at least a great number of people are going to find that will work for them. Now, if somebody went to see Dr. Burzynski and they said, well, I see that you want me to do this first, but I don't really want to do. I don't really feel like doing that. And then you want me to do this? Are you crazy? And then you say I should do this, and then you want me to do this? Are you nuts? I'm not going to do that. But I'll take your advice. I'll and then I'll go and tell everybody I went and saw Dr. Burzynski, and I'm a Burzynskiite. And by the way, I died of my cancer. Again, cancel the thought. Well, I didn't do Burzynski. I did something other than Burzynski, what was in my mind, that had nothing to do with what his protocol was. You've got to follow a protocol. And if you look, everybody goes and looks, and this even comes through in the Greek. The protocol is you've got to have a human life. You've got to maintain a human life. First order of business, love for the Creator, love for neighbor, love for self. If you've got a reality called hostility and fear in you, you've got to remove it. Then he says, once you've done that, He says, upon this hangs the law and all the prophets. That's the protocol. He says that's the first law. You can forget everything else that those books say until you get that one down pat. He says you have to have the protocol. You have to do that first. Actually, the new book that I'm working on was originally entitled The 11 Most Important Words Ever Spoken. And that is where Yeshua lays out the protocol. And then he says, for upon this hangs the law and all its prophets. If you don't have that, you can't interpret, you can't translate, you can't make sense. You can't have the experience that he was aiming for you to have. Sadly, most of our world, if you go back and you just Google the translators of the King James Version of the Bible, and people talk about this. I mean, I've seen bumper stickers on trucks that said, if it's not the King James, it's not the Bible. And you go back and you look at the man who was the director of that translation. You look at how he lived his life. He was a preacher. And there's one particularly powerful, and it's indicative of where this man lived, story about how there was a preacher who wrote something theological that he didn't agree with. And much like this whole story with Burzynski, he had the power to put this man in prison. So this man did the offense of writing something theological. It was another preacher that he didn't agree with. He stripped this man of his clothing. It was wintertime. He put him in a prison cell that had no roof on it and left him there for 3 months. When it came time for his trial, over which this man who set up the King James translation of the Bible, when it came time for his trial, the man was so sick he could not attend his trial. And the sentence that was pronounced by the man who set up this translation work was, we are going to split your nose down the middle. We are going to cut your ears off, and we're going to put you in prison for life. Now, does it sound like the man who directed and set up the format for translating the King James Version of the Bible met the protocol Yeshua called for? I mean, hello? Now take a look at this movie, Burzynski, and it's the same principle that operates throughout the whole non-being world. We need to get to the point in our world where we are the space of love, whatever anybody else is doing. And you can't do that if you don't follow the protocol. You can't have a human life if you're going to live in hostility and fear and vengeance and rage and pain. You don't have a human life. And our world is going to shift and change when we get enough people who actually incarnate as human beings and function out of an actual human mind. And so, yeah, I hear you, Tim, loud and clear. It's bizarre what's happened, but I think there was one, and he lived 2,000 years ago. And if we actually follow his protocol and his teaching, there's an interesting thing that happened in the 3rd century. And in the 3rd century, there was all kinds of arguing over what was scripture and what wasn't. And basically, a bunch of different power brokers voted on what was going to be scripture. They took votes. Is this book going to get in, or is this book going to get in? I like this one better than that one. And so they voted, and out of that Council of Nicaea came a thing called the Apostles' Creed. And if you listen to the Apostles' Creed, here's one section of it, which to me is indicative of exactly what the non-being mind does. The non-being mind that doesn't want to face itself, doesn't want to deal with itself, doesn't want to do its work. It looks at phenomenological things. And so we hear it say that this man, Yeshua, was born of the Virgin Mary, and then there's a comma, and then it says he suffered and died under Pontius Pilate. Crucified, died, and was buried. Now, when you look at that, which is supposedly the statement of faith for the whole of Christianity, where is the life and teaching of the man? It's in a comma. Why aren't there many people who are following it? Because it's in a comma. It's been disappeared. It's become a doctrine, a dogma, exactly the same as this whole Burzynski situation, a doctrine and a dogma that makes for money, that makes for power, and destroys people. How many millions have been murdered? supposedly in the name of Christ. It's like, and this isn't a religious principle. It isn't a religious idea. It's about how to live a human life. That's the highest religion. It's not about some kind of doctrine and dogma that men in their hostility and fear made up and terrorize other men and children with it. And so, everybody's got a right to do what everybody wants to do, but if you really want to restore a human life, you've got to start removing hostility and fear from you, and that's the worksheet and the instruction set that's on our website that we talked about earlier on www.whyagain.com. Go to the website. On the right-hand side, you'll see a link. It says download worksheets. First two links.
Michael, we
and
have a
we're looking
caller.
to. Oh, fabulous! Go for it, sweetie.
Area code 619. You are on the air. Who do we have, and where are you calling from?
Hi, this is Beth Paul again from San Diego.
Hi,
Hey,
Beth.
welcome. Glad you're
Hi.
here.
Thank you.
Delighted.
Me too. I'm glad you're here.
How's your day rocking?
Absolutely fantastic.
Cool. How can we support you?
So, what I wanted to tell you is, non-coincidentally, I just got a link for Dr. Burzynski's full-length movie that we can see in its entirety online.
Yeah, it's free until midnight tonight.
Oh, so you know about that.
On Vimeo. Oh, that's where we started the show. We talked the first 10 or 15 minutes. I described the movie, and we're inviting everybody to go look at it, listen to it, get a vote on Netflix, that Netflix gets it on there. You can buy 20 copies for $100, buy 20, buy 50, buy 5,000. Start handing them out. It's time for our world to change.
Okay. I came in late.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right.
And
So
then
what
I
else
just
is
wanted,
exciting in your world?
oh my gosh, everything is just going really, really good. And it's just, what I find is that when I follow the principles that are so simple that you're talking about, and when I remember to do it, my life is just like magic, and everything just falls into place, and it's just this exciting thing of, oh my gosh, what is the next wonderful miracle that's going to happen today? And they just keep happening and happening and happening. So I'm really excited.
You'd almost
Thank
think
you.
it was designed to work that way.
Yeah. And then also I wanted to know, how do you do the chat room? I don't know how to do that.
Okay. If you go to our website, whyagain.com, and right at the top of the page, there's a link that Jeannie's got for how to get in and register for the chat room. You can go in two ways. You can go in as a guest, which means you can't really make comments.
Okay.
Or you can register with Blog Talk, and then you can make comments and, chat with everybody.
Okay.
Things unfold.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank you again so much for your work, and I just really believe what you're doing is really helping the world, and I'm just so happy and honored to be part of it. Thank you.
Delighted. I don't know when we're going to get to your neck of the woods again, but invite us, and it may help. Get somebody who wants to put together a group that we can come and play with, and we'll be there.
Oh, that's great. I live in San Diego and Tucson, so I will definitely do that.
Awesome. Well, we were in Tucson. Well, no, it was. I guess it's 2 years ago we were in Tucson last. But yeah, we're delighted to go anywhere we're invited on Mother Earth and provide these tools. And when we travel, we pay our own expenses, and the workshops are free. It's part of our normal travel routine.
Thank you so much.
All right, delighted. Thanks for your call.
Okay. Have a great day.
Blessing. It's in the plan. It's already unfolding.
And we have another caller online, area code 765. You're on the air. Who do we have, and where are you calling from?
Well, this would be St. Jane.
Well, hey there,
hi.
St. Jane.
Hi, and I'm calling from Anderson, Indiana. And what I'm most curious about, the title of your book with 11 words, do you want to share those with us?
Oh, yeah, that was the words that followed the protocol that where Yeshua says first law, and first law means protocol, is love God, neighbor, and self. And the 11 most important words ever spoken were what followed that, and that is, for upon this hangs the law and all its prophets.
Okay, so that's the words, for upon this law. Yep. Okay,
for upon this.
Where is that in the Bible? Since I'm a minister and I don't know.
Oh, well, it's in. I'm not very good at chapter and verse, but if you look,
not either.
Just the first law.
Okay.
First law: love God, neighbor, self. And then
he
follows up and says, "For upon this." So he's saying, here's the protocol. If you want to look at the scriptures, in the way that they're meant to be looked at. He says you have to do this first. That's what it all hangs on. And if you don't have that, of course, then it hangs on your own understanding, your own insanity, your own hostilities, your own fears, instead of on the active presence of love. And we need to connect with what the whole game is really about in order to be able to play it as it was designed to be played.
Okay, that's good to know.
So what else is exciting in your world?
Well, I was trying to think. I'm doing dealing a lot more with people on core issues in their life to get them to look at self and what they're hiding, because you can't get there from here if you're in fear or you're hiding something. And actually, It's pretty simple. It's not real complicated. It's just getting rid of the fear and owning stuff and letting them go. But that's what I've been doing a lot. I've been working quite a lot with different people. And along that line, then I get to look at myself as well.
Isn't it wonderful that we teach best what we most need to learn? I love Richard Bach having said that.
I love Richard Bach. I didn't realize that he was the one that said it.
Yeah,
but it's definitely true. I mean, you can feel it in your soul. You'll know, yeah, that's why I gave that talk today. And you spoke yesterday at Unity?
Yes, yeah.
And how was it? What did you talk on?
Went very well. Coin of the realm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, coin of the realm. How do we connect with who we really are, and what do we need to be trading in order to be human?
Good. So you'll be
it's the active presence of love.
There you go.
Lady Jane?
Yeah? Yes.
It's Matthew chapter 22.
I knew you'd know that. You looked it up, didn't you?
And yes. And it's verses 36 through 40, and it says, he asked, Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And he said to him, you must love Jehovah your God with your whole heart and with your whole soul and with your whole mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. The second, like it, is this: you must love your neighbor as yourself. And these are the 11 words. On these two commandments, the whole law hangs and the prophets.
Okay. That's good. Thank you. I think I'll give a talk
You're
on
welcome.
that. Yeah, I appreciate it, Jeannie, and it makes a good talk for me. See, I pick up stuff from you all so I can go give a talk on it. Works for me.
Awesome. Well, hey, any support we can be, we're delighted to be on the team.
Yeah.
We're delighted to have you on ours. Look forward to playing this summer.
You're teaching all this week, right?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, we've got a workshop every night through next Wednesday and all day Saturday. We're doing
okay.
Breathing. Yeah.
All right. And do people know where that is?
Yeah, it's at Unity of Medford in Medford, Oregon. That's
Medford,
where we'll
Oregon.
be all week.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's
next
good.
Sunday we're actually going to do the service at Unity in Ashland, Oregon.
Good.
And then we'll be back at Medford in the afternoon doing Why Is This Happening to Me Again.
And then eventually you get into Florida, and then you go back to Heartland.
Then we'll be back to Heartland for the summer intensive season, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's all today, and I'll be listening, okay?
Awesome. All right. We love you. Appreciate
you. Love you, too.
So, Jeannie, do we have any other callers or anything happening in the chat room that I should know about?
There's no other callers. The conversation in the chat room is, we're talking about that, there are many different kinds of people, and they came for different purposes, and everybody has different gifts, and some people just choose to stay in their pain and suffering, and heaven forbid if you try to change them. And so sometimes you can't, and you just have to let them go and let God help. And I was just getting ready to type in there that actually if they go to our worksheet and look, that when you get down to the actual canceling or the forgiveness part of the worksheet, that it is in two parts, and that we have a part in it, and that is that we have to be willing to cancel the goal and let go. But then the second part is asking the spirit that's within to help us do it, because we can't do it on our own. So, we in no way are we saying that we do it on our own, that, we have to have God's help in that.
Yeah, and when you get down to it, and that's not a religious idea, when you get down to looking at that, what you find is, and there's some interesting Harvard research that says in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the maximum amount of information that gets into conscious awareness is 9 bits. 9 bits of data out of 10,000 brain cells firing, and it's been estimated that we live in approximately a 20 trillion bit world. So once you recognize that you've got a 9-bit processor, now that we've got computers, we can understand this a little better. Not much chance you're going to work through an issue that's 100 generations old. It's been in your bloodline for that long, or that you've been through in your life over and over and over again. But in Aramaic, Yeshua taught about a power in us, a literal elemental force. This isn't some airy-fairy thing. This is a literal elemental force that when you invite it into activity, will undo the effects of your errors and teach you the truth. We could say in our computer language, back then, if they had the computer language, they'd have said, hey guys, there's a super processor in you. There is an active elemental force that will leave you alone if you tell it to. I don't want it to interfere. It's not going to interfere. But if you invite it in, that it will go to work in you. And as it goes to work in you, it will undo all of these hostilities and fears and leave you free of the insanity of a human life. You look at the insane translations of the words about this power, and in Aramaic it was called eradica-tion. The Greeks translated as the Holy Spirit. There's no way to logically translate those words as something about a disembodied spirit being in Aramaic. It speaks of an actual elemental force in you. And the Greeks translated, and you'll see out of the Greek translations, there's always a fear base there. And so you hear this power being spoken of that resides in you that you can invite, and it says denying or blaspheming, speaking against that power is the unforgivable sin. And I've seen so many people living in terror that they've committed that sin. And you go to the Aramaic, and what it says is, if you deny, speak against that power, then in essence you can't use its force, and you're stuck in unforgiveness because you don't have the processing power in your human mind to move through those things. You don't have enough processing capacity. It's like, someone was telling me the other day that you can sign up on one of these astrophysicist websites, and you can commit to leaving your computer on all the time. And these astrophysicists that need more and more and more and more and more and more and more processing power, that millions of computers around the world, if your computer isn't being used right now, you can sign up in this site, and they'll use your processor through the internet to search in space for life, to do these huge calculations. And so being here on my own, if I've got an old, let's say I've got an old Osborne portable computer. They weighed about 20 pounds. I had one. It was my first computer. It's got a little 5-inch screen. There's 64-bit disk that you put in it, floppy disk. Now, with a 64-bit floppy disk, can I process or even start to process what we're doing looking out into space for life? I mean, that's ridiculous. But if I can tap into the internet and I have access that these folks have, all of the computers that are hooked to that site that have given permission lend their processing power to me. That's just what Ruka is in Aramaic. If you deny it, you can't process your stuff. You're going to be stuck in unforgiveness. It's not the unforgivable sin. But you'll notice how if one doesn't meet the protocol of the active presence of love, everything gets processed, everything gets interpreted through fear. And so you have so many people who are living in terror and fear of the Creator and therefore reject the Creator. And that's been done by the theologians who were functioning out of hostility and fear. They created an insane belief system that has just turned people off to what can really heal them. And so go to our website, download those worksheets, start using them. And I invite you not to believe a word I say. There are lots of people out there who are working with these kinds of items. Well, you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Excuse me. You don't have to believe a thing. It'll help. You don't have to believe a thing. If you put the pen to the paper and you do the work, the tools work, and your life will change. That's all. If you do the work. You don't have to believe a word I'm saying, any of my explanation. All you have to do is pick up the pen and the paper and put the tool to work, and your life will dramatically change because you'll be living inside of a set of principles that are designed for humans to operate. That's what this force called rec-ommended is about. And so we invite you to go to the website, download the worksheets, download the book, read the book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It's a cool story. It's about a character named Richard who's this recalcitrant kind of guy that doesn't want to hear anything I'm talking about. And as we get to interact, he's going through his third divorce, and he knows he just needs to get out of town, all these horrible women who are the problem in his life, and he just needs to get away. And so I get to do a lot of push-pull with Richard about how he's responsible for what's going on in his world, and he has a part to play in it. And so we finally lead him into and show him how to do the forgiveness process, how to use the tool out of the ancient Aramaic. Most people who read the book, their first response is, oh, my God, I'm Richard, or oh, my God, I lived with Richard. And I know people who need to read this book. So the book's free on our website. Of course, we'd love it if you got on the website and order it and or the DVDs. We've got 15 different DVDs. We've got 5 different sets of CDs. Actually, there's 16 different DVDs. They're all listed on the catalog page on the website under order products. So if you would like to support us, you can go and order some of our products. Also, there's a donation link there. If you're getting a benefit out of this, if this is serving your life, then we invite you to support us with a donation. Jump on the website, and there's a link that says donate. Put in whatever you'd like to donate, whatever it is. If it's $5 or $5 million, that'd be great. Click uplink or update, and just put your credit card information in. It's done. Our address is there if you want to send something to us. But anyway, we're just here to support you and hold the space. And we're honored and blessed that we have the opportunity to do this. Questions or thoughts in there, Jeannie?
No, there's nobody else has their hand up. The call-in number, if someone does have a question, we have 6 more minutes, is 646-200-4169. Give us a call. We'll be glad to answer your question. Press 1 if you have a question. It gives us the signal that you're not just sitting there listening, that you want to speak. So.
Cool. Any other chat going on in the chat room?
The only chat we're talking about is there was conversation going on about our part, and you kind of touched on that on your own without knowing what was in the chat room, so you intuitively hit that one. And that, there was some conversation about that the curse was lifted once Jesus died for us. And so I was commenting that, yes, Yeshua, also known as Jesus, was the way shower, but he also said that we had to take up our cross. He didn't say just sit there and let me do it. He says, you have a part in it. You have a part in the process. And then I explained that your cross is whatever it is that can take you out of the presence of the love of God, and that we have to face it and let it go. And then there was some discussion going on about that we are God, or that, we can't be separated from the love of God, and that he loves us regardless of our sin. And I was telling them, love is not something you do to another person, but it's actually the stuff you're made of. So that's the conversation going on in the chat room right now.
Yeah, and if you go back to the ancient teachings in Aramaic, God is love. It's not God does love. The Creator is the space in which we live, move, and have our being. It is love. It's not about doing something. We don't love, we are love. And until you discover that, and that's that protocol, until you discover that you are the active presence of love, until you come into direct experience of that, it's hard to even conceive of or start to think in those terms. And that's why we see all the aberrations, all the hostilities and fears in the name of the man who said, love those who hate you, do good to those who despitefully use you. And there are those who want to say that, it was all done 2,000 years ago. Well, if it's done, why are we still doing this stuff? Hello. There's work for us to do. And the work is, Yeshua says, be ye perfect. Like your Father is perfect. And what is the Father? What is the Creator? Is love. So be ye in that love, and then you'll know what the whole game is about. If you're in your hostility or fear-based mind, a non-human mind, then you've got trouble, and it's time for you to wake up to who you are. Because you were, just hold a newborn child and you know exactly the stuff you're made of. Nothing else counts until you get that one in order. And so we're here to support you and offer you the tools to move into reclaiming your actual human life. That is the absolute active presence of love in your physiology. You're designed to experience that love 24/7, 365 in every cell of your body. And if you're not, then there's work to do. Our way shower showed how to do it. Now it's up to us to do it. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in the trenches. And our support is to give you the tools, as they were taught in the original Aramaic 2,000 years ago, on how to achieve that result. It is an achievable result. It is an experience. We were not designed, or the whole idea wasn't to give us a belief system about it. The whole idea was to give us some tools to achieve an experience. And when you come to that direct experience, you've met the protocol that was called the first law. Now you'll look at everything with a whole different set of eyes and experience a whole different reality about yourself and everybody around you. And what we're looking to do is to invite enough people to reclaim their human lives by forgiving. And that is, forgiveness is about how I let go of what doesn't belong in me. So if I've got hostility and fear, if my physiology is capable, if my bloodline has rage and fear and grief and pain and sadness and hatred and anger and vengeance, I can't understand what those teachings said until I have a direct experience of love. And forgiveness is about how you go inside yourself and remove what never belonged. And we want the space for you to do that. And we're in the process of moving forward in creating a team to translate more of what comes out of the Aramaic and to share it with you as fresh as we get it. We don't know what we don't know from it yet, but we do know enough about the tools that we're taught to share with you a way that you can actually embody totally, completely, 100% a human life, the active presence of love. And as you do, you'll look out and you'll see beauty. You'll see love everywhere you go. And right now I'm getting to look out. I'm here in Ashland, Oregon. I'm looking out a window. There's a set of hedges, and there's this awesome orange-beaked, orange-bodied bird. I don't know what it is. I've never seen one like it. It's just standing out here, kind of looking around the window. Awesome beauty. There's so much awesome beauty out there. But if you can't see it, it's because beauty isn't active in you, and you're designed for it. Jeanne?
Absolutely. And we're down to less than 60 seconds, so let's just wrap up for the day. Thank everybody for listening. Tune in tomorrow and bring someone else with you. And have a wonderful, blessed day, the best one yet of your eternal life.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.